My name is Bayeté Ross Smith. I am a photographer. A visual artist, multimedia artist.
Where are you from? Where are you now? And where are you going?
And Guerrilla. And this is something that I was involved in, just general social justice with an emphasis on Black and Latino people prior to Black Lives Matter having a name. I think it's important to understand that what's happening in that movement has been building for a long time. It just recently was given a name that everyone can say and memorize and make into a hashtag and share. I think it's also important to understand that Black Lives Matter is more, from my perspective, it's more along the lines of saying the civil rights movement. There's a larger movement there that it encompasses. It's not, even though it's kind of grown to become somewhat of a specific organization, Black Lives Matter isn't really a specific group of people in the sense that it's not one thing. There's a broad range of people contributing to that political movement. I also think it's important for people to understand why it's so important to say Black Lives Matter. Because what that name, and that's why it's such a brilliant name for the movement, that name is really uncovering a lot of bigotry and implicit bias throughout our society. Simply because people have such a problem with the name. Seemingly intelligent people are willfully ignorant and are refusing to acknowledge the validity of that phrase and the validity of what it implies. And that stubbornness is really interesting to see archived. Like, this is going to go down in history, that so many people refuse to acknowledge that what Black Lives Matter means is Black Lives Matter too. Black Lives Matter also. You know, Black people's lives are important just like everyone else's.
So you mean as opposed to all lives matter?
Yeah, or any other lives matter, blue lives matter, any other nonsense. And just seeing the problem people have with the Black part of it and emphasizing Black as valid, it's just really profound, and I think it's really important. It's going to be as important as all those images from the civil rights movement of the police and the fire departments attacking American citizens who simply want to be treated equally as citizens with police dogs and spraying them with fire hoses. You know, for simply wanting to be American like everyone else, like their ancestors, you know, the descendants of people who have been in this country since the beginning, wanting to be acknowledged as American, how much hate came from simply wanting to be what they are. We're seeing a similar thing with Black Lives Matter. Just the amount of hate that is bubbling to the surface because people, not only Black people now, a substantial amount of white people and people of Asian ancestry, and you know, I mean, I grew up in the 80s and 90s, so Latino people are Black as far as I'm concerned, in the sense that they can't pass for white, and you know, they're gonna get treated like niggas unless you're Gloria Stefan or somebody who can pass for white. You're gonna get treated like a nigga if you're Latino anyway. But whatever. When I generally think of Black people, I'm often thinking of my Latino brothers and sisters in the same way. But you know, it's important to say Latino also, so people don't know I'm only talking about African American. But yeah, I think, you know, there's a variety of different people associated with that movement, and the amount of hate that movement is receiving by people who supposedly love the United States of America and want it to be great is really profound at this point in time. I mean, in my opinion, if you don't think Black Lives Matter, then you can't possibly love America. You can't possibly respect and honor our troops. You can't possibly honor and respect our law enforcement officials. You can't honestly honor and respect and love anything associated with our society if it's okay for you to denigrate the black people who participated in all those areas, as opposed to acknowledging them as an equal part of that. And I think that's something really important that's veil is being pulled back on a lot of our society. Things aren't getting worse, it's just that the veil is being pulled back. And we're seeing what a lot of people really stand for. And we're seeing a lot of fundamental flaws in the ideologies of our society, and we have to push back against that and actually make our country live up to being the great place that it supposedly is. We have to actually make that a fact. And that's never been a fact throughout the history of our society. But we have a unique opportunity to actually start going in the right direction now. But it's going to take a lot of work. And a lot of people who claim to want mutual good for all people are being exposed as the selfish, cowardly bigots that they are. But that's part of the process. If there's no struggle, there's no progress.
So because of everything, you literally just spoke about the way that this country views people of color. Thinking about, okay, people of color or children of color specifically, is there any advice, or what would you say to someone who has just been so messed up by what society has been telling them about themselves? What would you say to them to allow them to see more opportunity for themselves?
Well, one of the things I would say, and we kind of laugh about this amongst ourselves many times as African Americans, but black people need to get therapy and be aware of their mental health issues, and we got to start taking that seriously. You know, we joke like, oh, black people don't do therapy, but we actually need to address mental health. And a lot of times, historically, we've done that through a variety of different ways. Some people have done it strictly through religion and faith. Other people have done it through alternative spiritual movements, meaning not the Abrahamic religions. Some people have done it through developing other senses of community. But I think we have to utilize all the tools at our disposal to really address our mental health. Because mental health in the United States of America is a real challenge. We have a society that gives us a lot of opportunity and a lot of access to resources, but there also is an ideological mindfuck, if you will, that goes on here that can really tamper with your mental health and your emotional health. And that's regardless who you are, you know. I mean, you could be the wealthiest, waspiest white man, you're gonna fall prey to that. I guess wealthy, waspy white men are probably, I guess, on the top of the totem pole in America. But the point is, none of us are immune from that because we're all Americans. So for people of color, I think that becomes especially challenging because our society has not yet come to terms with going against white supremacy to the point where black and brown people and people of color are considered valid and important on the same level culturally and historically. So I think that's critically important. And you just have to seek out those resources formally and also in terms of the media you consume and the stories you intake, as well as the history you're aware of. Like you really have to do some substantial study in terms of media and history to understand the worth that your lineage brings to the table.
Do you have any suggestions of media or literature, or anything that you personally, or anyone that you personally think is worth looking into for?
I mean, there's so many people that would kind of depend on a specific area, but I mean, I don't know.
Anyone who's inspired you, maybe anything that you've read or watched?
I've been inspired by, I'll just start naming things. I've been inspired by Octavia Butler. I've been inspired by the autobiography of Malcolm X. I've been inspired by The Destruction of Black Civilization by Chancellor Williams. I've been inspired by James Baldwin. I actually was fortunate enough to meet him as a child. Unfortunately, I could not have a substantial conversation from an adult standpoint with him, but just meeting him and being in his presence, in retrospect, was an amazing experience. I've been inspired by the writing and work of Ida B. Wells, artists like Prince and Michael Jackson, down to, you know, hip hop artists like Rakim and Big Daddy Kane, all the way up to Tribe Called Quest. I'm about to use too much hip hop slang. We call them Tribe, but a Tribe Called Quest, Outkast, Killer Mike has been doing some really good work over the past 6 or 7 years. I'm really proud of Killer Kill and what he's been doing. Filmmakers like Ryan Coogler, he's a big inspiration to me. You know, a young cat really doing important things. Ava DuVernay, Spike Lee was always an important inspiration. There's a lot of different people who are doing things. You know, Nelson Mandela, while he was alive, was inspiring to me. Patrice Lumumba is a historical figure. There's so many different folks whose stories and experiences, I think, can inform and inspire us to do productive work in the world. I could go on and on. My family inspires me also. I'm very fortunate to come from a great family who is always, our family is always working to improve and push the needle on social justice for Black people, for brown people, for all Americans, in very small ways that are substantial. I'm very impressed with my elders and the work they've done, and the fact that they have not sought fame and fortune, but just have done what's important. That's really inspiring to me as well.
So, I think we're done here. Is there anything you would just like to say, coming from you to viewers? Diverse.
Oh, no.
I know it's like your last words. Don't be scared, but
what is the last word going to be? That's always the hardest part of any story that's told. How do you finish it with the last word?
Well, you're not actually dying, which is the good thing about this. So
I know, but if these last words aren't good, then people won't look at all the other stuff that I've done, good stuff that I've done online and such. Last words. That's funny. There's a question in Question Bridge where someone asked that, like, what's the last word you can be remembered by? I don't know, and I also don't want to say something too cheesy or cliche, but I think if I had some last words, I would say, it's important for us to always push ourselves, to keep evolving and growing intellectually, spiritually, and in terms of physical health. So I guess my final words would be, we all need to continue to emphasize critical and analytical thought. That seems to be decreasing in our society, and those are very important aspects of humanity. That's what makes us special as human beings, and that's what makes us, unique as life forms on this planet. So let's keep up and improve the critical and analytical thought so that we can progress and evolve. That's what I would say.
Thank you.
Thank you.